Welcome to another Jisc Digital Media morsel. This media morsel will showcase a few examples of freely available tools available to flip the classroom using online video. But firstly, what do we mean by a flipped classroom? One definition comes from EdUCanocom. The flipped classroom is a pedagogical model in which the typical lecture and homework elements are reversed. What this results in is a role reversal where instructors become the guide on the side and not the sage on the stage, and the flipped material becomes the control of the student, and this is particularly evident when using video. But this is a new approach to teaching and learning and requires a level of upskilling for both staff and students. We know that using video has a big impact on student engagement and attainment, and there are many sites now available on the web to watch video content, YouTube obviously being the most popular. But it's also possible to build a complete resource or learning object around this content, enabling your students to assess their knowledge and for you as a tutor to gain beneficial feedback before seeing them in the lecture hall or classroom. We're going to take a look at 3 sites that provide this facility. Okay, so the first site we're going to take a look at is educanoncom. So the first thing you'll need to do is you'll need to obviously create yourself an account, which is quite straightforward, and then click on Get Started. And now we're going to begin to build our lesson. Educanon allows you to use video from online sites such as YouTube, TeachTube, Khan Academy, Shmoop, and some others as well. So the first thing you'll need to do is obviously need to enter a title into the area here and your learning objective, and select the subject area and level that it applies to. Once I've entered in these details, then I need to add in the URL of the video clip that I'm going to use. In this case it's a YouTube video, so I simply paste that into the box and click on the green arrow. And as you can see on the right hand side, the video begins to load and starts to play. If I don't wish to use all the video, I can crop the section out. I'm going to leave this for now, but it's a simple process. And now what I can do is start to add questions at points in the video. So click on Add Question. As you can see, there are a range of types of questions that you can use. However, some of them are reliant on you taking out a premium account, which obviously has a cost. So you simply choose the point in the video where you want to add a question. So I'm just going to drag my slider to a particular section, and then I'm going to choose my question type, and in this case it's multiple choice. You're then presented with a text editor, just like you would see perhaps on a Word document, for example. You simply type in the question in this box and then enter your choices. So when you've entered all your answers and selected the correct one, simply click on Save, and this means that that question set is saved at that point in the video. As you can see, it's at 0.04 seconds in, and you continue to add your questions in a similar way. So when you've finished adding in all your questions, simply click on Finish Build. We're now going to assign our lesson and share it with our students. So here is our library of lessons, and there are a couple of ways of which you can share your lesson with your students. If you click on the middle button, it says Share and Embed, and these are your choices. So by clicking on Monitor Registered Students, you can provide a link or indeed embed the lesson directly into something like a VLE or web page or blog, and students will register on the site. This will allow you to create classes of students and then monitor their progress. Equally, you can share this lesson via social media such as Twitter and Facebook, as well as emailing that link out to your students. You can also share with students that are not registered on the site, so they do not need to create an account, but you'll still be able to look at their responses and their activity in exactly the same way. And finally, you can share your lesson with other colleagues, and as it says, There's no login needed to view it, but you don't get the ability to track. So it's simply a method of using that particular lesson. So in this example, we're going to monitor registered students. So I'm going to simply copy that link and email it to my class. So what you can do now is you can now set up an assignment with a due date for that particular lesson that you've just created and assign it to a particular class group. And to do that, you first of all need to click where it says Add New Class, give your class a title and a description. You then need to set a due date by clicking on the calendar button at the top here, and then you simply find your lessons from the right hand side panel and drag it onto your class, and you can add in as many lessons as you like. So now that you've set up an assignment with a due date, you will need to provide your students with this code at the top here, and that was how they will actually enter that particular lesson. If it wasn't an assignment with a due date and you were simply wanting them to access the lesson and then just monitor their progress, then you would just give them the link that we looked at before. Okay, so we're now looking at Educanon from a student point of view and how they will now access that lesson that you've created for them. So they need to click on Add Class and add in that code that you've provided to them. And as you can see, it then shows all the lessons that were relevant to that code. And the one we need is Week 4 English. And then we click Done. The student will now just simply click on that and it will show them the lessons that they need to complete and also highlight whether something is overdue or whether it's due soon, etc., and the sort of progress that they've made. So we're back now into Educanon from a teacher viewpoint, and now we're going to look at the activity of our students. So we click on Monitor at the top. Find the class, which in this case is Week 4 English, and select the lesson, or bulb as it's called on the site, which is this one here. And here's the name of my student, and I can see that they've answered the first question and they've got 100%, so they've got that correct. So that's a very basic and quick introduction into using Educanon. So the next site we're going to take a look at is EdPuzzle. Just as with Educanon, you need to create an account to begin with. But one of the advantages of EdPuzzle over Educanon is you're able to upload your own video that you've created, as well as using online videos such as YouTube. When you've created a video lesson, you can then assign that to your classes. So the first thing you do need to do is create your classes. This is a very simple process. Simply click on My Classes and click on Add Class and give your class a name. And then obviously select the subject and the grade that it's relevant to and click Save. And there's your class. What this does is then provide you with a code, and this is what you would share with your students in order for them to access the lesson that you're going to create. Okay, so now we're going to create a video lesson using an online piece of video. So we click on Create and it's New Video. Now as you can see on the left hand side, you've got quite a choice of different online video that you can use, as well as lessons that have already been created using EdPuzzle. One of the slight disadvantages with EdPuzzle is that all the lessons created are not private, they're all public. The idea is that this provides a facility for sharing to other academics within the community. So you first select a site that you wish to search for. In this case I'm using National Geographic, and then you simply type in a search term at the top here and press enter. This will then search videos on that site with those search terms. Then you click on Use It for if you wish to use that particular piece of video. So now you can start beginning to create your lesson. And as you can see, there are steps that you work through, and there is always a video tutorial if you're not sure how to do something. So the first thing is that you can crop, just like you can with Educanon, to a particular point in time. You simply drag your sliders and then you click on the button to move to the next section. Now, one other advantage that Edpuzzle has over Educanon is that you can actually record your own audio tracks. So the first one you come to is recording an audio track that goes over the whole of the video, and you would simply click on the little microphone button, begin talking, and it could be some kind of introduction or some other teaching that you wish to convey to your students, and then that will be saved into the video. I'm just going to leave that and move on to the next section. So the next item is you can add notes at certain points in the video, and just like you did with the cropping, you simply drag it to a point in time and then you click on the microphone. You need to allow that your inbuilt microphone, and you simply start talking, and that's now recording an audio note. When you're done, simply click on the button again and then move on to the next section. So as we did with Educanon, you can now start to begin to add questions and quizzes to your video clip. And as you just did with the audio note, you simply click on the question button and you have 3 types of question that you can add in. It can be an open type question or some kind of test, or indeed you can just make a comment. Once you've added in something, click on done, and then you're ready to save and finish your video. At this point, you just need to add some tags, because I mentioned the videos are public and this will allow people to search for them, and then click save and exit. Okay, so now we're ready to assign that lesson to our students. So here is a list of my classes, and I simply select the classes that I wish to have access. It can be more than one. And one other advantage is that you can prevent your students from skipping forward on the video so that they have to work through the whole piece. Or if that's okay, you can simply untick it and then you click on Save Assignment. Okay, so you've created your assignment and you now want to share it with your students. So you can either embed the assignment just as you could with Educanon into a VLE webpage or blog, and you can have different sizes, or you could just give the URL to your students, or you can share that via Facebook, Twitter or email. Okay, so we're now in Edpuzzle in the student view, and I need to obviously join the class in the first instance to access the lesson that you've just created. So the student would need to click on Join New Class and enter the code that you gave them earlier. And as you can see, I now have that class in my list, and here is my lesson, and I can begin to work through it. Okay, so we're now back into the site from a teacher point of view, and I want to obviously look at the progress of my students. As you can see, my lessons are all listed on the dashboard page, and this is my history for, and I can see that one student has completed 30% so far, and I can click on the progress button and it will show me the name of the student and what they've actually done. So obviously if there were questions, then the grade would appear in there. I can also drill down a bit further to see exactly how long they were on a particular piece of video, how many questions they got correct, etc. And I can work through all my students. I can also export my grades out to a CSV file, which can then obviously be imported to any other type of gradebook. Finally, I just wanted to mention that there is now an iOS app for students for their iPad or iPhone, which enables them to actually take the lesson on their device. So that's a very quick introduction into using Edpuzzle. So the final site we're going to take a look at is TED-Ed. You may be familiar with TED Talk, and this is the educational side of that particular site. TED-Ed allows you to create lessons around TED-Ed content, TED Talk videos or YouTube videos. So just as with the other two sites we've just looked at, you do need to create an account, and then you click on Create a Lesson. So as with the other site, you need a URL, and this can be from YouTube or from TED or from TED Talk, and you simply paste that into the box at the top and click Search. You then select the video, and now you can click on Launch Lesson Editor. So as with the previous site, there are sections that you work through. So to begin with, you obviously can add in some kind of introduction to your students to explain what it is they're going to be doing. So we will now move down to the next section. And now on this one we can now start to add questions. You do only have two choices, however, with TED, which is multiple choice or an open answer. So in this example I've chosen a multiple choice question. You simply type in your question and then add your answers and select the correct one. What you can also do is provide what we call a video hint time code for when the question is answered incorrectly. So what this means is that it will take the students back to the point where they need to find the answer. Without the time code, the students will be prompted to start the video right from the beginning. The next section, which is the Dig Deeper section, as it says, is a free text box, so providing context to continue the learning experience and related content to explore. So some further text that you want your students to. One advantage of TED is that it allows you to add discussions within your video as well. So this section here, where it says discuss, allows you to add a discussion. You can put in some kind of explanation, and students can post to this discussion. And finally, you have another text box where you can have some closing thoughts or something else for your students to think about or perhaps complete. You can then preview your lesson before publishing it. Okay, so when you click on Publish, your lesson becomes listed on the TED website. If you don't wish it to be public, you can simply change this at the top and select Unlisted, and then just click Save. So now that your lesson is complete, you can share it with your students. They will also need to create an account, just as you've done with the other sites, and then you can simply copy the link and email that out, or paste it onto a VLE or blog or website, or share via social media, and simply click on Send. So once your students have finished watching the video lesson that you've created, you can review their work by simply clicking on Review Student Work, and as you can see, their name will be listed with the completed questions, whether that was correct on the first attempt, how many attempts they've had, and so on. And also it shows you the discussion replies as well. You can then download this information, as you could do with EdPuzzle, into a CSV file which can be used for further analysis. So that's a very quick introduction to using the TED Ed site to create a video lesson. Well, that was a quick look at some sites available to flip the classroom with online video, but we'd also like to remind you of our forthcoming webinar running on the 15th of October at 11:30 called Video for All, presented by Teresa McKinnon, Principal Teaching Fellow of the Language Centre from the University of Warwick, who will be talking about their use of video to enhance teaching and learning. For further details and to sign up for this free event, please visit our webpage at www.jiscdigitalmedia.ac.uk. Thanks for watching.